welcome to my kitchen and my channel. If this is your first time here, I hope you'll enjoy it enough to subscribe, and if you're a regular viewer, then thank you for your continued support. Now, as you may already have guessed from the title of this video, it's going to be something a bit different to usual in that I'm not going to be doing a taste test or a review. I'm actually going to be, I say baking, but it's a no-bake cheesecake, so I'm not actually baking. I'm making a cheesecake, and I'm going to show you how to do it so that if you also want to make this cheesecake, then you can. I will try and put the recipe in the description box below. Quick disclaimer, I've made this basic cheesecake recipe before, but I've never made this particular cheesecake with these flavourings and combinations before. So this is kind of my own recipe that I have invented. Hopefully it's going to work, but it might not. But you know, that's half the fun. I do also want to take this opportunity to share my thoughts on ways that you can cope with Christmas, because it can be such a tricky time of year for people for just so many different reasons. It can be a reminder for someone of how lonely they feel. It could be grief or loss, someone who would normally be there and now isn't. Financial pressures, things like work nights out, buying gifts, secret Santas, all those kinds of things. But because this is a food-based channel, I am going to focus on coping with Christmas if you or someone you care about is struggling with an eating disorder. Now, I don't have any medical qualifications or any psychology degree, nothing like that. Everything I'm going to say, it's just my opinion, and you're perfectly entitled to agree or disagree. It's just my thoughts. I know that not everyone watching this will find that relevant, and if you're just here for the cheesecake, that's absolutely fine too. Right, let's get started, because this could take some time. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the ingredients. You may be able to tell I haven't worked out quite how I'm going to decorate the top of it, so I'm keeping my options well and truly open. So this is going to be a caramilk flavoured cheesecake on a digestive and Biscoff base. So it is about 2:30 in the afternoon, but my kitchen can be quite dark and dingy at the best of times, so I may have to put a light on at some point. In terms of utensils, you're going to need a tin. I recommend either a loose-based one like this or a springform tin. Can't remember what the diameter of this one is. I think it's 20 centimetres. You want it to be fairly deep so you get a decent thick cheesecake. You're also going to need a plate, a measuring jug, a mixing bowl, a knife. You're going to need a spatula, a couple of spoons, and just a couple of small bowls or cups as well, and a medium-sized saucepan, and also a rolling pin. The first thing to do is weigh out the butter, and you're going to want 250 grams of butter. It doesn't matter if it's room temperature or if it's been just taken straight out of the fridge, because you are going to be melting it anyway. I am going to be using metric measurements. I am no good at mental maths and I cannot convert. So apologies if you like ounces, because I can't do ounces, and American cups, I'm just clueless. It's up to you if you want to chop the butter into smaller pieces or not. I am going to do that. but I will not film that because it will just be noisy and annoying. So that's my chopped butter. I'm just going to put that to one side for now. So the other component for the base are the biscuits. Now you need 400 grams of biscuits, and it's completely up to you what combination you do. You can do all digestives, you could do all Biscoff, you could do half and half, which is what I'm going to do because this is not a Biscoff cheesecake, so I want more of a hint of a flavour. Ginger nuts also work really well in combination with digestives. You can use cream-filled biscuits like Oreos, but the amount of butter you need is different, and I can't tell you what the right amount of butter would be for that type of biscuit, just because it's got the cream filling, so that also melts. So I'm going to weigh up 200 grams of digestives and then 200 grams of Lotus Biscuits. Actually, I've only got 4 digestives left, so I think I'll just put them in and then make the rest up with the Biscoff. £404 grams, but we're not going to worry about being 4 grams over because it doesn't matter that much. Now comes the fun part. You want to put the biscuits into, I would recommend a resealable food bag because you are going to be crushing them. And when I put them in, I give them a bit of a crushing just as I go in because it just makes it easier and takes less time when you actually get onto the proper business with the rolling pin. You want to squeeze as much air out the bag as you can and close it. I leave the tiniest little bit open just for air that is trapped. I haven't put all the biscuits in because you don't want to overfill the bag. Now, if you've had a really stressful day, you can batter the hell out of the biscuits with your rolling pin. However, my rolling pin is made of marble and I'm likely to break something, so I'm going to have to just do it by rolling over the biscuits until they are fine crumbs. If you don't have a rolling pin, anything that you can use to bash biscuits with will be absolutely fine. Just pick the bag up and give it a little shake from time to time because you don't want any sort of big biscuity chunks in it. So this is my bag of biscuits. There are still a few big bits in, but that doesn't matter too much. You could do this in a blender, but it's more washing up and less fun. So the next thing is going to be to get your saucepan on a low heat and you're going to put in all the butter and melt it. But you do need to keep your biscuits close by because you are going to need them. You want a low heat because you are just melting the butter, you're not cooking it, and it will melt quite quickly. And you do not want to let the butter burn. So it's not just Christmas Day that can be stressful for people who have eating disorders. It's the whole build up to Christmas can just be full of anxiety and just feel completely overwhelming. Things like having to buy gifts, write cards, there might be work nights out, things like that. So it's not all about the food side of Christmas. If you're not someone that struggles with an eating disorder, then it could come across as someone being a bit flaky if they're, you know, not making it to events or having to cancel things like that. But they're not doing it to be difficult. It's just, it's too much for them to cope with. So just showing that little bit of understanding can sometimes make a world of difference. And when I talk about eating disorders, I'm not just talking about anorexia or bulimia. There are so many eating disorders. There's things like orthorexia, ARFID, binge eating disorder, and that's just a few of them. It's actually scary how many there are. All right, my butter has now completely melted, so I'm going to take it quickly off the heat and put in the entire bag of biscuits. So you're just going to stir the biscuits into the melted butter. You can crush up any bigger lumps of biscuit that you might have got. And you just want to make sure that as much of the crumb is coated in butter as possible, because basically that's what's going to stick your base together. It's just a lovely, warm, buttery, biscuity smell. So once that's done and you've got lovely mix of butter and biscuits, you're going to want to put them into your pan. And then just press them down and get them really tight into the edges. It's actually better to do that with a metal spoon. Silicone has too much give in it. Christmas should be a fun occasion. It shouldn't be something that builds up in your head into this huge daunting prospect, because it doesn't have to be. You want to get it as flat as you can and as even as you can, and make sure that it goes all the way to the edges. But Christmas Day doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be fun. There was one year when my mum was hosting Christmas and she completely forgot to cook the pigs in blankets, and nobody actually cared. And it was only afterwards, when the clearing up was going on, that she found a tray with them on. We had a laugh about it. That is just my base pressed down into the tin, and I'm going to put it into the fridge now to chill. So for the filling, you're going to want your double cream, mascarpone cheese, and full fat soft cream cheese. It's very important that it's full fat, because if it's not, your cheesecake will not set. And you're going to use 250 grams of each one. If you are somebody who struggles with an eating disorder, then a deviation to your normal routine can just be utterly terrifying. And that's part of what I think can make Christmas just feel so much to deal with. So something like a bit of planning can make a huge difference in how you're able to cope with Christmas. Get involved with the planning as much as you feel you need to. So it could be as simple as, all you need to know is roughly the timings for the day. You might need to plan a bit more than that and actually know exactly what the food is going to be, what you're going to have, things like that. And it can be a way to get involved in the process as well, because Christmas should be about bringing people together. And because it does centre so much around food, like so many social occasions, it can make somebody feel like an outsider, like they can't really be part of it. Planning ways to cope with any difficult feelings or emotions that might come up can be really helpful. Somebody might find that they need to take some time out if things are starting to get a bit much. Maybe do some slow, deep breathing, or, just be away from everyone just for a little bit. I'm also taking this out in tiny spoonfuls when you use pretty much the entire pack. This is quite a good one to do with kids. If you have kids, I wouldn't go out and just get random children to help. You may get arrested. That's my mascarpone going in. Probably should have weighed it directly into the bowl actually, but never mind. I didn't. So I'm going to do the cream cheese next. It might be quite helpful to think of food, you know, as if it was oxygen. So what I mean with my very clumsy analogy is that nobody says you have to earn oxygen or deserve oxygen. If you take a deep breath, you don't suddenly think, oh God, I've got to hold my breath for as long as possible to make up for that because I took all that air in one go. Food is no different. We need oxygen to live and we need food to live. It's exactly the same. This is messy. And finally, 250 mils of cream. But what you eat shouldn't be influenced by other people because everyone's nutritional needs are different. So regular eating can be really important to someone who is trying to recover from an eating disorder. And if that means that you're going to have to eat when nobody else is eating, that's absolutely fine. It's really nobody else's business. Food should be enjoyed. And I know I make that sound so easy, and if you are someone who struggles, it is so not. So you're just going to add it all at once. But you need to remember as well, Christmas, it's one day out of the whole year. And one day is not going to have a massive impact on your weight or body size or anything like that. So you are going to stir this. Don't stir it too violently. But you just basically keep mixing it until it is combined. All your body wants is to be healthy so that it can survive for as long as possible. You can see that's becoming quite well combined now. We are now going to head back over to the microwave with a fresh bowl, a fresh spoon, and I'm going to use 2 bars of Caramilk, which is 200 grams. You can use up to 400 grams, but the more you use, the sweeter your cheesecake will be. So it's something just to bear in mind. If you are having Christmas dinner with someone who has an eating disorder, I would say really try not to comment on the quantity they eat or indeed on what they eat. Different people have different foods that they feel comfortable having. So I have just realised it's only a 90-gram bar of Caramilk. I do have 3 of them, but I'm just going to use 2 because, as I say, it's a very sweet chocolate. But people who do have eating disorders might get tired more easily or not be able to concentrate as well as those who don't. So they might need to just have some time just to rest or be quiet and still. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you're somebody who is struggling and you're starting to feel unwell and you need to rest, don't force yourself to join in with that game of charades or, you know, Twister or anything else that your family might play. Don't know why I picked those 2. My family do not have Christmas games that we play. But an eating disorder is an illness. And it's a mental illness, so you can't tell how ill someone is or how much they're struggling by what they look like. So I'm basically going to put the chocolate in the microwave for 15 seconds, stir, 15 seconds, stir, and repeat until the chocolate is completely melted. If it's almost completely melted, you'll generally find you can just stir any large lumps and they'll melt. It's really easy to go too far and burn it, and if you burn it, you're gonna have to get more chocolate. So once again, I'm just stirring the last few little lumps to get them to melt into a nice smooth chocolate. This is the point where you would add, if you're putting fruit in it or vanilla flavouring, anything like that. It doesn't have to be chocolate. In the past I've done white chocolate and raspberry, I've done white chocolate and blueberry. If you are mixing in the fruit, just be very gentle, fold it in. Otherwise, particularly with ones like raspberries, you're just going to smush them all up, and yeah. You're just going to add this into your cheesecake mix and stir it in until combined. I've mentioned quite a bit about people being in recovery from an eating disorder. It's quite important to highlight that not everyone is in recovery, and that's absolutely fine. People who aren't in recovery, it doesn't mean that they don't want to get better. When you are recovering from an eating disorder, you have to basically relearn and retrain your brain in the way that it thinks about food and weight, because you've taught your brain that these things are extremely important, and it takes a heck of a lot of effort, I would imagine, to try and teach your brain that actually they're not. But just because somebody isn't in active recovery, it doesn't mean that they want to be ill. I am so grateful I have a dishwasher, but I always find emptying the dishwasher feels like so much of a chore. It's like it's harder to empty the dishwasher than it is to actually do the washing up. But if you've ever tried to wash melted chocolate, particularly milk or dark chocolate off stuff, oh, hell. But think back to Christmas last year, or maybe that's not the best one to pick, maybe the year before. And if you're someone struggling, think really hard about what you remember. Is it your weight on that day that you remember, or is it the experiences you couldn't really participate in because you didn't feel well enough or you were too afraid? But I would say that if you aren't sure how best to support someone with an eating disorder, just ask them. It can be really difficult for people with eating disorders to voice their needs. So don't just expect that they will tell you if they need help or support. And I will make sure in the description box I put a link to the website for BEAT, which is the UK Eating Disorders charity. They are open every single day of the year, including Christmas Day, and they're not just for people who have an eating disorder. They also support people who have friends, family, loved ones who have them as well. But you can see now it's a much thinner, runnier consistency. You're going to get your base back out of the fridge and just put the topping on and smooth it out. I tend to do it in spoonfuls rather than plonking the whole lot on the top at once, because you might find that you actually don't need all of the filling. You can just stick it in the fridge and spread it on digestives, eat it with a spoon, whatever you fancy. So you're going to pop your cheesecake back in the fridge. It takes usually about 4 hours to fully set. This is so heavy. Please don't drop it.
Oh, one thing I forgot to say as well, with eating disorders, different people find different things helpful. So just because one person finds one approach works, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone. It's really individual. Just ask them, what can I do? And they may not have an answer, but sometimes they don't need you to give a solution. Sometimes all anybody wants is just to have someone to listen. You don't have to have a solution to every problem.
It's now the following day, so it's fully set now. It's white chocolate stars and a white chocolate Lindor ball, which I have sprayed with some edible gold luster, and then just some fudge cubes and some little gold stars. I'm just gonna run a knife around the edge just to make sure that it comes out smoothly. Right. So this is like the 10 spit on Make Off, where it's coming out the tin. Is it going to stay in one piece, or is it just going to go everywhere and be a disaster? I also don't quite know how I'm going to do this, because it's very, very heavy. Oh, there we go. Moment of truth, people. I'm going to end up covered in cheesecake, I can tell. Oh, it's coming out, which is great, but I now have a ring stuck over my arm. There's probably a much easier way of doing this. Success! And I've only got a little bit of cheesecake on my hand, so there's not much mess there. So here we have the cheesecake. I am not going to attempt to take it off the metal base, but I am going to cut a slice out, because the real test is in the eating. So here I am with a slice of my homemade Caramilk cheesecake, which it would be rude not to try. It does look very homemade, but that's probably because it is. Oh my God, I am good. Wow. Okay, it feels bad saying that because I made it, but it really is. It's not sickly sweet. And the base with the combination of biscuits, it's really yummy. People develop eating disorders for so many different reasons, and it's not always about appearance. It's not as simple as eat more, restore weight, or move more and eat less. This counts as my mid-morning snack. That's it for this video. I hope it has been useful in some way, whether that be in terms of giving you a new recipe or some helpful advice. If anyone is upset, offended, or triggered by anything that I've said, I sincerely apologise, because that has not been my intention at all. I will hopefully see you for my next upload, and until then, please try and enjoy the festive season as best you can.